Okay, everybody, Michael Franzese here, and guess what? This is episode 2 of our Mamaluke of the Week series. Now, for those of you who watched last week, we got a great reaction. We did Maxine Waters, and boy, did she qualify for the first Mamaluke, no doubt about it. For those of you that don't know what a Mamaluke is, we showed you Robert De Niro. He said it just, perfectly.
Like a bum, like a Mamaluke.
You're a nincompoop, you're a dummy. You know, when I said the word nincompoop, my daughter looked at me, she's 26 years old, and she said, "Daddy, what is that?" It's unbelievable when you see this generation gap. In the comments, I want anybody that knows the word nincompoop just to say something for me so I don't feel that old. I remember Laurel and Hardy and some of the people back then in some of these television shows, they used to say it all the time. I heard that all the time. I grew up in the 50s and 60s, so yeah, ancient news, right? But you young kids don't know what that means. But if you've heard of it, please let me know. So we're doing this series. This is number 2. And this is from all walks of life. You know, if we were to deal only with politics, we'd have a Mamaluke of the day because somebody is stepping on their own tongue or foot every single day. You know, there's no question about that. But it's not about that. It's just who stands out for being a Mamaluke that week. And this week, you know, the prize has to go to Rachel Zegler. Now, I think people know who she is by now because she's been so outspoken. She's a young girl, she's 23 years old, and she's a great actress, no doubt about it. She was great in Spielberg's West Side Story. She's got a great future ahead of her if she learns how to control her mouth a little bit. And, the reason I picked her because when you are the star of a Disney movie that cost upwards of $215 or so million, and you contribute greatly to the loss, the tremendous loss, I think they're going to lose about $115 million or more. Your words contributed to that. Well, you know what? You're a Mamaluke. So let's first go quickly. You know what she starred in? Snow White. Now, Snow White has been a tremendous Disney movie. It came out in 1937, and kids have been watching it ever since, whether it be on television, whether it be on DVD, whether you can stream it. It's a classic Disney film, a beautiful love story. That's what it's all about. Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. She finds her true love. You know, the evil princess wants to kill her. The evil queen, I should say, wants to kill her, gives her the apple because she's the fairest of them all. You know the story. I don't have to go through it. It's a classic. So, you know, a little bit of the Mamaluke has to be shared by Disney to change something so dramatically that worked so well. If you want to do a live-action version of Snow White, well, at least keep the story. So now we have Rachel Zegler, who is very, very outspoken. I don't know who her publicist is. She would share in Mamaluke of the Week with her for not telling her to control her mouth, because when you have a huge film coming out, the best thing to do is keep your mouth shut or be humble, talk nicely about the film, don't try to get into politics, don't turn off people that possibly could buy your tickets, and don't, create this crazy idea of a story that everybody is going to say, well, wait a minute, that's not Snow White. That's exactly what she did. So I'm going to go over a couple of her clips, but she really is a Mamaluke because she almost single-handedly caused this film to flop, and it flopped terribly. And rightfully so. But let me play a couple of her clips and we'll go over them one at a time.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
Okay, so now she's saying here, she just changed all of Snow White. Snow White was a beautiful love story. You know, she's a poor woman, a poor girl, I should say. You know, the 7 dwarfs help her through all of her adversity. You know, she gets that poison apple. They want to kill her, and what happens? She finds her prince. It's a beautiful love story. Everybody loved it. Well, she thinks it's weird. Why is it weird for these young kids today to fall in love? Why is that not beautiful? Doesn't every woman really want to fall in love? Want to be loved by somebody, want to be cared for by somebody? Not to say that you're not independent because somebody loves you. You know, this whole weird version of what's going on today is crazy. A love story is a love story, and when somebody falls in love with you as a woman or as a guy, it's beautiful. So why does she think it's weird? Wrong, shouldn't have said that. The fact that she said it's coming out in 1937, that should say a lot. Well, what does that mean? Were people in 1937 weird? You know what? I think we had a better, time in America here back in 1937, 1940, 1950 was supposed to be the 50s, was supposed to be the best time in all of U.S. history. After World War II, patriotism, people coming together, rebuilding, it was a wonderful time. I was born in the 50s. I remember it. It was terrific. But she says it's weird, and that says something because it's 1937. No, you just turned off a lot of people by saying that. Let's continue.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again.
Okay, so she said she was scared of the original cartoon, watched it once and never picked it up again. She should have watched it a few times and maybe became more familiar with the story. And before the script went through such a dramatic change that it sounds like she had a part in, Disney, an accomplice with that, obviously it was their production. You should have, watched it a little closely and maybe stayed a little closer to the original blockbuster, wonderful story written by whoever it was, but produced by Disney.
I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024.
All right, so Snow White is not about the love story, which is really wonderful. Snow White was all about the love story. That's what it was. That's the entire movie, about a girl who finds love in a prince that falls in love with her and saves her life. So I don't get it. Why is it weird to these young people today? Hopefully not all of you. I shouldn't put you, all of you in the same box, so to speak. But just crazy things she's saying, really crazy. And believe me, Disney blames her. They're all blaming her. They're saying, a big part of the film tanking was because of her outspokenness and because of the things she said. But my thing, why didn't their publicists rein her in? Why didn't Disney say, hey, cut it out? We got a lot of money at stake here. They didn't do that. The result, big flop.
So no Prince or a different kind of Prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, we cast a guy in the movie.
To everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
All right, now she's getting kind of narcissistic there and talking about all her flaws, but, people are going to be waiting in line to see her. Well, that didn't happen. Learn how to tone it down. Stop being a Mamaluke. I hope this taught you a lesson because you're a great actress. There's no question about it. Again, great in West Side Story. She was terrific. Learn how to control your tongue. You are an actress. And you have to understand, you can have an opinion, but sometimes you better just put a lid on it, because if you're insulting people and turning people off, they're going to dislike you, and as a result, they will not buy a ticket to see your film. And that's what it's all about. People buying tickets to see your film. Learn that. Whoever your publicist is, fire her or him or whatever and get a new one that will advise you better. You need a consigliere is what you need. Her whole thing is about women being empowered to be all that they could be. Okay, that's a different movie. That's not Snow White. She talked about empowerment and, and how, silly it was to have a love story and the princess stalking Snow White, and she changed it into a mess. That people, before they even went to see the movie, they got turned off and they said, I'm not going to see this. This is another Barbie. This is another woke film. This is another Disney trying to inject wokeness into a classic story. So, that's what turned everybody off of this film, and boom, disaster at the box office. But let's go a little step further. These actors and actresses don't understand something. When it comes to politics, they need to button it up. I mean, didn't she learn by, Robert De Niro? Look what happened to his film, Alto Nights. He's in a lot of trouble in Hollywood as a result of his outspokenness. And not that he can't have a political opinion, but it's very difficult when you start knocking the voters of a candidate that you just don't like. And he did that, and he suffered as a result. George Clooney, same thing. Julia Roberts, same thing. Ben Stiller, same thing. You got to understand something. These studios, they don't need you as much as you think they need you. They got the money. They make the films. They can hire somebody else. There's a lot of new talent out there. If you got a great script and you match it with a good director and a good actor, you got something. It doesn't have to be the same old that demand millions and millions of dollars. These younger actors, they don't get paid as much. You got to learn how to tone it down. She didn't learn that. All right, she's 23 years old. I give her a little grace because of that. But let me read some of her statements. And this is now, it's very, very hard to undo, bad publicity on yourself when you bring it on yourself. People have it in their heads and they say, that's it, had enough, don't like her. There's nothing she can say to make me like her or him. That's it. And I think that's what's happening here. But let me read a couple of her statements that just put her in a lot of trouble. She got into politics. This was right after Trump was elected. This is what she put on her Instagram or X or whatever platform it was. This is right from her, Rachel Zegler. I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred, leaning us towards a world I do not want to live in. Leaning us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in. She doesn't have a daughter. She's 23 years old. Leaning us towards a world that will force her to have a baby she doesn't want. Why are you going to have a baby you don't want? Because Trump is president? Try this. Try not to get pregnant if you don't want the baby. That's the practical way, and that's the logical way, and that's the smartest way. Leaning us towards a world that is fearful. I don't know who's in fear right now. I know I'm not. I know the protesters that are getting paid make believe they're in fear, but they're really not. I shouldn't be this shocked, but I am. I'm heartbroken for my friends who woke up in fear this morning, and I'm here with you to cry, to yell, to hug, to wax poetic on how the left continues to fail us in forging a new path forward. This loss should not have been, and it certainly should not have been by so many votes. Really? So you're knocking the voters. Here you are, knocking the voters. Why don't you just talk about Kamala Harris? She was a poor candidate. Okay, let's go. Quote, I echo Ethel Kane's statement more than anything. Quote, may Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace. So there she is. I want to tell you something, Rachel. There's a lot of conservative voters out there that enjoyed Snow White. They like love stories. They have children. They like this kind of stuff. You just turned off millions of them by making these ridiculous statements. You can feel that way. Don't voice it when you're ready to open up a big movie. How's that? Do it at another time. Do it when I think you shouldn't do it at all. But if you want to do it, don't do it when you're opening up a big movie. Don't turn off the ticket buyers. Anyway, she was also very, very outspoken, pro-Palestinian, and against Israel. Let me explain something again, you Mamaluke Rachel Zegler. Most of all, Hollywood, the elites in Hollywood are all Jewish. The people that run the studios, the people that run the show, they're mostly all Jewish. To start being pro-Palestinian is really not a good look when you want to really advance yourself in Hollywood. Be smart, get some good advisors, right? Get a consigliere, get somebody that's smart around you to advise you, because you're a young girl, you're a brilliant actress, you got a future ahead of you. Stop being a Mamaluke. That's it for today, my friends. So we had Mamaluke number 1, Maxine Waters, Mamaluke number 2, Rachel Zegler. Who's going to be number 3? At the end of the month, we're going to ask you to vote on the Mamaluke of the month. We'll take it from there. That's it for today. See you later.